What if I revealed that Ferrari is going through one of the most severe internal crises in recent years, and that Lewis Hamilton might have his days numbered at the traditional Italian team? This is precisely the reality unfolding behind the scenes at Maranello, where tension exceeds any expectation you might have. Get ready, because the next moments will bring impactful revelations capable of completely transforming the destiny of the most iconic team in motorsport's top category. At the exact moment you're following this content, devastating speculations are traveling through the paddock of motorsport's top category like uncontrollable flames. Carlos Sainz has his name whispered as Hamilton's likely replacement as soon as 2026. Exactly, you heard correctly. The same driver who was practically forced to leave Ferrari to give way to the seven-time world champion may return to occupy precisely the position that should always have been his from the beginning. However, wait, because the narrative becomes even more fascinating and disturbing. Fred Vasseur, Ferrari's commander, openly confessed to being furious with this entire situation. And when I mention furious, I'm referring to a state of genuine irritation, including public statements and direct accusations against the media. According to Vasseur himself, he was truly outraged by speculations that almost cost him his position and even questioned Charles Leclerc's future at the team. Let's understand this explosion that shakes Maranello and threatens to ruin years of careful strategic planning. Lewis Hamilton joined Ferrari as the big star who should transform the Italian team and restore the lost titles. The seven-time world champion was considered the fundamental piece of the puzzle to remove Ferrari from the constructors' title drought that has continued since 2008. 14 races after his debut, no podium. Absolutely none. A result that resonates through the corridors of Maranello like a definitive condemnation. At the same time, internal pressure escalated in an alarming manner, and speculations began to acquire enormous proportions during the Canadian Grand Prix weekend. It was at that moment that everything began to collapse publicly, with calculated leaks and conjectures that questioned Ferrari's entire directive structure. Johnny Herbert, former driver and renowned Sky commentator, was direct in categorically stating that Sainz would represent the perfect replacement for Hamilton if the partnership between the Briton and Ferrari comes to an end in 2025. Herbert, who masters the backstage of the top category like few others, believes that both sides can reach a mutual understanding to finalize the contract early if the difficulties persist and the results don't show dramatic improvement. And here arises the backstage drama that is rarely known. Vasseur exposed impactful details about how these speculations almost annihilated the team's internal environment and established a climate of generalized distrust. He reported with visible anger that the conjectures went excessively far by questioning not only his future as boss, but also unjustifiably attacking Loic Serra, Ferrari's technical director, and even presenting Leclerc as a possible fugitive to Mercedes. Ferrari's commander was categorical and emotional in expressing that he was genuinely irritated because the speculations were completely unfair to Serra, considering that the 2025 car was practically concluded when the Frenchman started his work in Maranello the previous year. In other words, blaming Serra for current problems would be totally inadequate and would demonstrate complete ignorance about the development procedures in the top category. Vasseur didn't economize on criticisms of the contemporary press, declaring that the search for views transformed sports journalism into something much more aggressive and irresponsible. According to his perspective, the internet established a dangerous dynamic where unfounded speculations gain enormous proportions even before receiving adequate verification. However, what most caught attention was the surprising revelation that Antonello Coletta, responsible for Ferrari's endurance program, came to be internally considered as a possible successor to Vasseur. Additionally, Ferrari itself would have made a discreet and strategic approach to Christian Horner before he left Red Bull Racing. evidencing that the movements behind the scenes were much more intense than suspected. The situation became so tense that Vasseur's own renewal negotiations were affected. The Frenchman admitted that the process would have been much more agile and tranquil without all this media noise generating unnecessary pressure and harming crucial internal conversations. Now let's examine coldly this explosive situation and its consequences for the future. Hamilton is undisputedly going through his worst phase in years, unable to even reach the podium for Ferrari in a complete year of competition. For a driver accustomed to disputing victories and world titles, this must be psychologically devastating and even questioning his motivation to continue competing. Carlos Sainz, for his part, is at Williams demonstrating exactly what Ferrari lost by dismissing him so precipitously. The Spaniard has been extracting the maximum from an inferior car and exhibiting impressive technical maturity. Sainz even declared to be very confident that his decision to transfer to Williams will prove to be correct, especially observing the progress of the English team. The irony of this situation is absolutely brutal and almost cinematic. Sainz was practically expelled from Ferrari to open space precisely for Hamilton, in a decision that seemed strategic at the time. Now, with the Briton completely in decline and without results, the Spaniard emerges again as a solution to the problems that his own departure helped to create. It's as if Ferrari was publicly recognizing that it committed a monumentally costly strategic error, and there are more revealing details. James Vowles, Williams' boss and profound connoisseur of the paddock, has already made evident that he believes Alex Albon would be a completely different competitor if he returned to Red Bull as Verstappen's companion currently. This declaration demonstrates how drivers can completely be reborn when they leave toxic environments or simply ones inadequate to their characteristics. Would this be exactly the case of Sainz returning to Ferrari with more experience and maturity? The question that really remains is, how long will Ferrari be able to sustain this clearly unsustainable situation? Hamilton has a guaranteed contract until 2026. But contracts in the universe of the top category are just documents when results don't appear and pressure becomes unbearable. The pressure of the Italian media is historically merciless, and Ferrari fans never forgive prolonged mediocrity. Charles Leclerc is also in the spotlight of this generalized crisis. Despite the long-term contract recently signed, former driver Christian Danner was extremely direct in stating that the Monegasque needs to focus exclusively on what he has at Ferrari because Mercedes, Red Bull, and McLaren would seriously hesitate to hire him. 8 victories in 6 complete years at Ferrari is a number that definitely doesn't correspond to Leclerc's recognized potential. The naked and raw reality is that Ferrari is navigating an extremely dangerous crossroads for its future. Keeping Hamilton can mean another entire year of frustrating results and growing pressure from all sides. On the other hand, bringing Sainz back would be publicly assuming that the exchange was a monumental error that cost precious time in the search for titles. What do you think about this absolutely explosive situation happening at Maranello? Will Lewis Hamilton manage to reverse this devastating crisis, or will Carlos Sainz really return home through the back door as Ferrari's prodigal son? Share your sincere opinion in the comments, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any hot backstage news from the top category, and activate the bell because this story is very far from ending.